Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud. Today we're doing a special Sagittarius season question and answer. Hope that you're doing well out there. Hope that you're having a wonderful full moon in Gemini this week. If you have questions today, I'd be happy to answer them. We're going to be talking about astrology. We're going to be kind of looking at some of the unfolding of the astrology of the next couple weeks. I can answer any questions you have about your natal chart. I can answer questions that you have about astrological technique. We can just talk about how things are going in your world and just spend some time together. You know, that's what's nice about doing these live streams, is being able to create community. So welcome, friends. I just want to welcome a few people into the chat here. We've got Dove Girl is here. It says, hey, Spencer, nice to see you, Dove Girl. Currently stopping in from the store. Let me know if your screen name, if your handle is different than your screen name was in the past. If this is someone that I should recognize in the chat, let me know. Dove Girl, if you've been here before and your handle has changed, I apologize because YouTube's been a little funky with things lately. But welcome, friend. Hope that you're having a great Friday as well. Glad that you're stopping in from the store, and hope everything's going well your way, my friend. Javiera is here. What's up, Javiera? Nice to see you. Javiera stopping in from the mobile version that we're doing here today. We have two different streams going, really. We have one that's on YouTube in the landscape mode, and we have one that's specifically designed for your mobile phone. So that's exciting. A number of ways to consume the Spencer Michaud Astrology Podcast. Javier says, Collingwood, Ontario, finally home. Nothing beats your own bed. Oh, I'm happy to hear that, Javier. I hope everything's going well with you, and glad that you're home and able to just kind of relax and recover from whatever challenges you've been going through. Leanne is here. What's up, Leanne? Says hi from the UK. Hope everyone is well. Nice to see you, Leanne. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And thank you for the support. I know that you've been supporting the channel recently through various means, and I really appreciate you being here today, friend. Okay, so a few announcements before we get going. We are doing a Sagittarius season question and answer today. If you have a specific question, do me a huge favor. Put question in all caps before your comment. That helps me to see it. If you want to purchase a super chat today, that helps me see it as well. All of these things can go and help out and make our production go smoother today. So a few things before we get started. What do you say? So you can find me over at spencermichaud.com, and I have a number of offerings for 2025, but into 2026. I might be rearranging some of those moving forward for the year ahead, but there are all sorts of ways you can connect and get a reading for 2026 and for anticipating any of the challenges and benefits that might be coming in the year ahead. You can schedule a natal reading. You can schedule a transit reading. You can go 3 months ahead. If you want me to look further ahead, we can manipulate the reading to meet your needs as well. So hope that you'll go over to my website, spencermichaud.com, and click on the Book Now button. All right. Also, today is the last day of my 50% off holiday sale of all of my digital recordings. I have a ton of webinars up on my website at the store. Okay, so you can find all of my Decans webinars over there. You can find my Dignity and Devotion series where we go in depth with my beautiful partner Tanya Andrews of Third Coast Mojo. We talk about crafting a ritual practice around these 7 traditional planets. We talk about how to remediate challenging placements. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. I've been doing some research into retrograde planets in the Vedic tradition, in Jyotisha. Some really interesting insights to that, so you're going to want to stick around for that today. You can also find my Stars and Cards webinar where I talk about the connection between astrology and tarot. 50% off, the biggest sale I'm going to do all year. Please take advantage of that. I would love for you to be able to have all of this information. Also, Third Coast Mojo is having a sale right now too. 25% off anything that you can find over at Third Coast Mojo. Great for the holidays. Great to be able to purchase these things, give them as gifts. They're wonderful things. They're wonderful ways to support not only Spencer Michaud Astrology here, but Third Coast Mojo, my beautiful partner, Tanya Andrews. She is going to be putting a lot of energy and effort into Third Coast Mojo in the weeks and months ahead as we're going through a little bit of a transition with our employment situation here. So Support a local business, Third Coast Mojo. Support an independent creator. Support a Black-owned business. Really, Third Coast Mojo has all of those things going, and I think that she does incredible work. Tanya is an incredible conjure, astrological mage, and rooted solidly in the hoodoo tradition, but also in astrological elections. She's got some incredible stuff up there. I am constantly just covered in Third Coast Mojo astrological elected materia. So I hope that it will serve you as well as it has me over here. Just speaking of people you can support, go support my daughter, Sophie, over at Sag Moon Magic as well on Instagram and in TikTok as well. She's doing some awesome work there. You can also find me at my newsletter. So if you can, in the description of this video, you can sign on to get weekly updates. I try not to overburden your inbox, but I will update you about once a week or so, where you can find out when I'm going live, what new products are at Third Coast Mojo, what the stars are doing, and how to reach out and become part of our community. So make sure you're subscribed for that newsletter, and you get discounts off of readings too. There's a 20% discount around your birthday. So if you sign up and you enter your birthday in there, you get 20% off of a birthday reading as well. Finally, if you want to support the work I'm doing here today, you can purchase a super chat while I'm live on YouTube, or you can become a patron over at buymeacoffee.com. A great way to support the channel, a great way to reach out, keep independent supporters or independent astrologers working. Me. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, everyone who's been so generous with your resources, but also just with your time and attention. The easiest thing you can do today is to like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you have the means to support the work that I'm doing here today, I super appreciate that as well. All right, my friends, that's what I've got going on here for our announcements. I'm just going to check back in with the chat, see who's stopping in here today. We've got Thagish Shwarma Mana is here. It says, hey, bro, where are you from? Bro, I'm from Michigan and the United States, and just doing astrology here in the Midwest. And we go live each Friday here and talk a lot about, you know, how things are going in the sky. We have a really supportive community where we try to build each other up through kindness and just through weathering the ups and downs that come with astrology, just with life in general. So where are you from? Nice to see you here, friends. Nice to see all of you stopping in. Okay, well, nice to see you in the chat. If you have any questions, friends, please drop them in the chat here today. We are doing the Sagittarius season Q&A, answering your questions about astrology, answering questions about your chart. We are experiencing in the last 24 hours or so a full moon in Gemini. So a great time to answer questions. I've got some water here. I've got some nice hot turkey stock. I've been sipping on some bone broth here today. Keeping warm. Hope that you're all keeping warm. It's been like single digits here. Our thermostat was messed up this morning, and it was like 40 degrees in here when we woke up, and thankfully we got it fixed, but trying to stay warm. I hope you're all staying warm where you're at. Yes, we've got lots of bro love here. Absolutely. I love it. Power Ranger is here. What's up, Power Ranger? Nice to see you. Hope that you're doing well. It says, what are we doing here? Power Ranger says, we are answering your questions about astrology, tarot, fixed stars, metaphysics, philosophy. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. Make sure they're respectful. Make sure that you're bringing a sense of kindness to the chat. But other than that, you know, the forum is open for you. Javier says it's freezing here. So we've got this full moon in Gemini. Obviously, we've got some new folks stepping in here. Welcome. We do this live stream really every Friday or so. And we talk about astrology. We talk about how things are going to be unfolding astrologically in the sky. We, of course, have a full moon in Gemini this week that we talked a lot about at length last week. Really, with the sun at the bending of the nodes, we have a turning point today in the solar significations in our charts. The sun, of course, talks a lot about identity. It talks a lot about our spirit's purpose, our conscious thing that we're trying to move towards. and our goals, a lot about taking authority. And with the sun at the south bending of the nodes, the sun is at a turning point where it's sort of at its lowest power, I guess you could say, and it's starting to move towards increase. We're moving away from form, moving towards increase. We're going to be seeing a lot of changes over the course of December where we are starting to move towards an ability to start understanding who we want to be next, who we want to be in this story, in this narrative. All right. Power Ranger says, what happened to 3-1 Atlas? That was the comet, right? Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like we had I think it's like a comet. I'm not an expert on the Atlas story here, but it seems that there was a comet that was coming around and it looked sort of like an alien spaceship or something. That's all I really know about that, friend. So wish I had more information. The Moon Den is here. It says, hey, Spencer, you are fellow Cancer rising, right? Spinning with this 12th house full moon. How do we mitigate the existential despair? Great question. And welcome, friend. I am a Cancer sun, but I'm a Leo rising. So this is an 11th house full moon. But as far as having this full moon in your 12th house as a Cancer rising, this could be one where you're just feeling like you really need to rest. You really need to have some solitude. It could be a lot of just thoughts of from the past coming up too. I think a lot of what we've been experiencing over this full moon is a revisiting of some things in the past that we want to let go of. The host of this full moon in Gemini is Scorpio, and it's the third 10-degree section of Scorpio. And what we get when we have the third 10-degree section of Scorpio activated is sometimes we can glamorize the past. What I've experienced over the past week and as the moon was becoming full was I was going back and I was having some memories about my mom. My mom passed away in 2022. She had cancer, and then she had a severe stroke and complications from that for a couple years afterwards. And the day after she passed, a beautiful butterfly visited me. And butterfly was one of the symbols that was really important to her. She had she was a Gemini sun, and she had a lot of butterfly, mercurial energy. And there was a butterfly that visited me the day afterwards as sort of a little spirit wink, right? And it was this beautiful, I believe it was called the mourning cloak or the mourner's cloak butterfly, which I thought was so appropriate. And then looking back on this week, I didn't really know what kind of butterfly it was, and I started looking it up, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And the mourner's cloak is interesting because it's a black butterfly that has these beautiful yellow edges to it, like sunshine peeking through a mourner's dress, like someone who was in mourning but didn't really want to be. They wanted to just get it over with. And that sort of really resonated with me with my mom. My mom was someone who was really very sunny, a really effervescent personality, and I don't think she would want people to mourn super long. So that's sort of a long way of saying that we're revisiting things. We're revisiting things, but finally to really get some closure with it, I think, on some level. So that might be something that you're going through too. And with Cancer rising, you are experiencing that Mercury from the 5th house. So this could be something related to children, could be something related to your creativity, romance. Those are all 5th house significations. So take a look at what wants to be composted in your life, even if you have to revisit it temporarily, but try not to hang on to that old form and return it back to the earth, because we've got some really powerful new starts that are going to be happening in January. December is not really necessarily the month to push all your chips in to the center of the table and make that new start, but January is really powerful for that. So I hope that helps, friend. Let's see. So we've got the 3-1 Atlas. Hold on a second. Oh boy. Yeah. Appreciate you. So yeah, put your questions here in the chat. I hope I answered the Atlas question. Honestly, I don't have more information for you about 3L Atlas, or I'm not even sure that I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I expected a little bit of this, a little chaos today with the Gemini full moon. All right. So one of the things that we're experiencing here today, friends, is the Grand Water Trine. we're moving into the last grand water trine from the planets that are making a grand water trine to Jupiter, to Neptune, to Saturn, and Mercury is the last planet that's going to go through this. So if I bring up my chart and add it to the stage here, so here is what we're looking at with this chart. We've got as I'm recording this, here we can see what we've got going on right now today. Here we've got Mercury, the host of this full moon, and is going through this grand water trine to Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter, right? And all of these planets, Venus, the Sun, Mars, have all gone through this particular arrangement. And this is sort of the last one. Mercury's gone through, I think this is the third time because of its retrograde motion. So this is a really good time to just tie up those loose ends, to finally let go of something in your life that just isn't serving you anymore, and get prepared for those Capricorn Cazimis of Venus and Mars in the beginning of January. So we do this kind of these planets will renew themselves in the heart of the sun. And Venus is a planet that is associated as the host with both Taurus and Libra. So in your natal chart, you look at these different houses and see where Taurus and Libra is falling and what topics are associated with that. We can go through a little run through of what topics might be associated with each house if people are interested in that. But and Mars is also going to be going through that renewal in the heart of the sun. And Mars is responsible for the Aries and the Scorpio areas of your chart. So multiple areas of life getting renewed in the beginning of January. So that's something to keep an eye on. Let's see. 3i Atlas. You guys are really into Atlas today, huh? There we go. Thank you. Okay, so it's not 3L, it's 3i Atlas. Interesting. Stephen the Jupiterian is here. Says, today is a fantastic day so far. Knock on wood. I hope so, friend. Nice to see you joining us here from sunny San Francisco. Maru is here. What's up? Hello, friends. Just joining here. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well over there. I think joining us from Germany, perhaps. Hope everything's going well your way. Jody is here. Says, hi, friends. Tuning in from work. Happy Friday. Exactly. Yeah, it's been a long week, hasn't it? Especially when we have these full moons. It's in Gemini, in a place that can feel like we just got a lot of things spinning around in our head, a lot of distractions, right? And the weekend will be nice to recharge. Jody says, the sun at the north bending. The sun is at the south bending today, and the moon is at the north bending. So as the moon was going full, it was at the north bending. So the sun is starting to move towards increase, Jody. And that moon, that full moon, was starting to move away from increase and towards decrease. So we might be starting to feel a renewed sense of purpose. We might be starting to feel a renewed sense of identity. Maybe throughout these grand water trines, we've lost our sense of identity because we've had to let go of some material things within our life. And now that leaves us saying, well, who are we? What are we doing here, right? And that can feel a little disorientating at first. And this sun at the south bending is sort of that return towards just kind of taking the leap, right? As we move towards the north node in Pisces, we may have to let go of the how, and we have to get in touch with our why. We have to think about what we're trying to do here. What are we motivated by? And I think that's really a good thing to do for the rest of December, is figure out our motivations, and then that will start to take form in the beginning of the new year. So find your why. Start visualizing what could be possible rather than get fixated on the limitations. Think about what you want to create. I know that sounds cliche and metaphysical in New Age circles, but this is very much a time to get in touch with your why, to get in touch with your creative visualization exercises. And then the time for manifesting, the time for taking action on that will be coming shortly. All right. I love all of you that are joining from the mobile stream today. Thank you for that. What's up, Cosmic Girl? How you doing? Nice to see you. I believe you're joining us from Australia. So welcome, my friend. Maru is an Argentinian in Germany. Nice. I'm having to relearn all of your screen names because now we see your handles instead of your old screen names. So thank you for helping me to remember who everyone is in the chat. Steven says, missed you last week. Thanksgiving was a busy weekend. Absolutely. I'll have to post some pictures of our Thanksgiving spread and the leftover sandwiches that came afterwards. Oh, it was amazing. If you didn't catch last week, Stephen, we were talking about leftovers and turkey sandwiches with cranberry sauce. It was so good. Today I've got a little bit of some hot stock in here, some turkey stock we made from the bird that we cooked. It's amazing. It's keeping me warm. It's powering me through all of it. Right. Let's see. Good. Letting go of things. It's my theme of my life. South Node in Virgo in the 10th house here. Yeah, so this is a really important one for you, Stephen. Being able to let go of form, right? And kind of have faith in the universe to provide. Diane Lawson's here. What's up, Diane? Says, do you have any forecast regarding Trump for the coming year? I'd have to think about that. I think that it's a good question, but also I'd have to pull up his entire chart and start analyzing what he's going through and his time lords, etc. He's not really a topic that I find all that interesting, to be 100% honest with you, Diane. I'm not in alignment with his politics, and quite frankly, he just makes me sad. So focusing my attention on things that bring me joy is something that I like to do on this channel. Doesn't mean that I want to ignore some of the real challenges that someone like him provides for the collective, but I try to steer clear of speaking on him, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna politely decline. But if you have any other questions about your own chart, I'd be happy to answer them. Steven says, creating a new me with this nodal return on December 20th. Yeah, there you go. I love it. That's my partner's birthday, by the way, Stephen. Let's see. Concept of time is so off. Cosmic Girl says, trust you all had a relaxing Gemini full moon detox. I don't know if you would call it that. I as a Cancer type person, I am pretty affected by the lunations. And what I have found with air moons in particular, if you have strong Cancer type placements in your chart, I find that the air moons keep you up at night. And it was a little bit of a long night, just with especially full moons in general, because our brains get activated, but the air moons in particular, and the Gemini ones, our thoughts, they just continue to race and race and race. So yeah, I hope that everyone had a good Gemini full moon, but we're able to get some peace within it as well. Yes, happy early birthday to Miss Mojo in advance. Exactly. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. It's going to be an interesting year ahead. My beautiful partner's going through a level one. I'm not level one. A new annual perfection, first house annual perfection next year at her birthday. So kind of being reborn a little bit and letting go of a lot of the old forms. And some of that can be kind of scary at first, but I think that that's where our faith comes in, right? That's where our faith in the process to unfold is going to help us moving forward. All right. So grand water chime, December 6th through December 11th. We're also kind of coming into this kind of square with Mars and Saturn, right? So we've got a Mars-Saturn square that's perfecting on Sunday over the weekend. A feeling like we might be wanting to move forward with speed, but running into some obstacles. Maybe there's something that is slowing us down quite a bit. My previous animal for December was the cheetah, where we might be wanting to sprint and to move quickly into our new reality. But one of the cheetah's qualities is not just its great speed. It is its ability to turn on a dime, right? Its ability to make adjustments. So this might be another place in the astrology where we're going to need to make some adjustments potentially. And keep those questions coming, friends. I would love to be able to answer any of your questions astrologically. Sorry that I'm not more of a political commentator and decline that other question, but it's a toughie. It's a toughie. I think that there are so many different factors that come into play with that, and it's a very divisive topic, and we are trying to create some unity here on the channel. So moving forward, if you don't have any questions, I'll just keep outlaying some of the astrology for the coming week. We have Neptune stationing direct on the 10th, and Mercury making an opposition to Uranus. So Mercury at 28 degrees and Uranus at 28 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio, respectively. So this might be a time where we're starting to get clear about what our vision is, what we're moving forward with. We might have some shocking communications that come to us. We may need to fix something with Mercury in the third 10-degree section of Taurus, opposite, with Mercury in the third 10-degree section of Scorpio, opposing Uranus in the third 10-degree section of Taurus. Really what we see with the third decan of Taurus is a need to fix something that's fallen into disrepair or corruption. Mercury, of course, we've been talking about, is moving through the Scorpio decan that is related to letting go of old forms, but potentially glamorizing them. So if there's something that's shown to you over the next week that needs to be released, that needs to be fixed, try not to be too nostalgic about keeping it going. I was thinking about here's just an example. We have a refrigerator that is on the fritz, and we've been thinking about trying to repair it, but it really kind of needs to be replaced. And this is a very mundane example where that particular appliance needs to just be kind of thrown out and replaced, instead of thinking about oh, this is our favorite refrigerator. I know it's a lame example, but at the same time, it's one of those things where these are the types of things that can express themselves in our life. It's not always going to be this huge earth-shattering thing. Sometimes it expresses through those little petty annoyances that we have to deal with in our lives. All right. The 11th, Venus is going to be at those south bendings of the nodes. So Venus at the south bending, you can see here that we have Venus at 13 degrees of Sagittarius, squaring the nodes at 13 degrees of Pisces, and Virgo. Sorry, brain just blanked out. Pisces and Virgo for a second. So all of the things that we were talking about with moving away from decrease in form and moving towards increase of meaning are going to apply to Venus over the course of the next week. So Venus will be hanging out in the 10-degree section of Sagittarius that talks about unifying body and spirit to move towards a goal. So we may have to start unifying body and spirit towards a harmonization goal. How do we want to harmonize in our life? And how does that affect, here, I'll make this a different color. How does this affect both the Libra area of our life and the Taurus area of our life? Okay, because Venus is the host of those two domiciles, I guess you could say, those two temples, lands, spaces. So we may have an important turning point with those specific topics. Now, just to give you an example, this is an Aries rising chart. You can see Aries is on the first house right here. And that would put Taurus on the second house and Libra on the seventh. Venus will be going through the bending of the nodes in the ninth house. So a turning point in your belief system as an Aries rising would help you start moving away from doing more work than is necessary and moving towards sort of, giving yourself enough rest. I would say that this would also have an important effect on how you make money and how you relate to other people. So what we're doing when we're doing astrology like this is we're taking in all this information and we're starting to see how this matrix of symbols creates a story. So in this case, in the Aries rising chart, which is just random, the story would be changing your beliefs about how many burdens you have to take on, and how do we allow ourselves more solitude, more rest, more faith in the process to play out itself, rather than taking on all of this weight of responsibility continuously. And probably because we want to make money to either support a partner or something of that nature. So when we change our belief systems when it comes to money and partnership and our roles within those, we can start to move towards the increase of rest that Aries rising so desperately need right now. So that's how we, as a traditional astrologer, Hellenistic astrologer, would start to break down some of these. And you can make the adjustment for your specific rising sign. Princess Diaries is here. Nice to see you. Says, hey, Spencer. How does the astrological transits affect our natal placements? That is a good question. So we're always looking at this interaction between the transiting planets. So I'll just give you an example here. I'll use my own chart here as an example because I'm living this, right? Living this experience. Just to give you a kind of a. So here we have two charts. On the inside is a natal chart. It happens to be my natal chart. So you could see that it's a Leo ascending chart. The moon is in Taurus on the midheaven. The sun and the Mercury are in the 12th house. There's a Virgo stellium here in the second house. Stellium has multiple planets. And what we are looking at is on the outer ring, the transiting planets. So how does it affect the natal placements? Well, that is a very long answer I could give you as someone who is very thorough with their answers. But long story short, there are certain planets in your chart that are turned on by different timing techniques. In this case, if we just look at my own chart here, I am in what's called a 10th house profection. And that means that the 10th house is activated during my 45th year. I'm 45 years old. And we look from intervals of 12 from the ascendant, the first house, and we kind of click it around. We go, we start with 0 to 12, and then 12, 24, 36. So we go 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. 45, 10th house. That means that the focus for me this year is going to be career, public-facing things, expanding my public persona, my business, etc. And because that is Taurus on the 10th house cusp, Venus is the planet ruler or the deity, the goddess that is responsible for Taurus. So Venus in my chart is going to be activated, which is because Venus is in Gemini in the 11th house, I have a lot of interaction with groups this year. Now, that is a fundamental laying of the foundation to say, well, what happens when that planet is activated by all of these different transiting planets that are moving throughout the year? So the fixed position in my chart is Venus at 16 degrees Gemini. I will have a Venus in Gemini in my natal chart for my entire life. And because it's turned on right now, I'm paying attention to the aspects to that planet. Okay, so in this case, the full moon was activating this planet. So today we've got a lot of good questions. We've got a lot of people coming in that are sharing their curiosities about astrology and sharing their wisdom. And that's activating that Venus here. Maybe we'll just have a great Q&A here today. What I also am trying to look at is what's happening with transiting Venus in the chart. Okay, so in this case, Venus is in the opposite sign of my natal Venus. It's like a Venus opposition. In this case, Venus is making aspects to other planets in my chart. Venus is squaring my natal Jupiter at 7 degrees of Virgo. So there might be a little bit of a tension between Venus and Jupiter in my chart. So long story short, take a look at which planets are activated for you in a specific year, because we could see all of these interactions happening and it's like, well, which one of these is most important? That's what we're looking for with timing techniques, is what planets are turned on for that year. What planets are turned on for you, Princess Diaries, right? And then take a look at planets that are aspecting the planet in your chart, and planets that are making aspects to the transiting planet. I hope that's not too complex. I'd be more than happy to take a look. If you want to put your chart in the chat, I'd be more than happy to kind of break that down in the language of your chart. Also, if you want to reach out for a reading, I'd be happy to do that one-on-one as well. I hope that was helpful for you. But a great question, because it's kind of confusing sometimes because we've got so many different planets and symbols, etc. And it's a lot to process. It's a lot of information to try to craft a coherent narrative from. But that's why we study for years and years and years, to understand all of these symbols and have it become second nature. This is one of the things I like about studying, is I'm trying to study consistently so those symbols start to become instincts that I have when I'm looking at a chart. We keep studying for years and years and years so that when we look at a chart, all of that stuff starts to recall, and we can bring it up when we're working with clients, etc. It's not easy to do. It takes a lot of time and practice, but things worth doing are worth doing consistently over time. Margaret is here. Nice to see you. Margaret says, Margaret. Hey, Margaret. What's up, Margaret? Nice to see you. I didn't recognize your screen name there. Hope you're doing well, friend. Hi, Spencer. This is a question that moves beyond Sagittarius season, but just curious. Is there a specific outer planet transit in 2026 that is especially interesting to you, and why? That is an excellent question, Margaret. Yes, I will say, let's get back to the chart here. Let's take a look at one that might be especially interesting. First one is huge. There's a huge one coming up. Well, in the beginning of 2026, what we will see is the first week, all of these planets are going to be cazimi. And this is around January 6th through January 9th. And you could see both Venus and Mars conjoining the sun around the same week. That means that we're going to get a renewal for those topics in our life and be able to plant seeds for new structures in our life. So look at the Capricorn area of your chart, Margaret. You'll have to remind me your rising sign. I think it was Cancer or Gemini. I can't remember off the top of my head. But tell me what your rising sign is, and I will tell you what house topic that might be. That's the first one. The biggest, I think, thing that we're building to in the beginning of the year is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. So this is happening in February. That's a really big one. So we're going to see Saturn moving into Aries mid-February, mid to late February, and conjoining Neptune. Here it is around February the 20th. This one, I think, is going to be pretty important. A number of reasons. Saturn and Neptune are both sort of like outer planets, I guess you could say. Saturn, more a traditional outer planet. Neptune, more of a modern outer planet. And they both really speak towards longer term cycles in the collective socially. And when Saturn moves into Aries, it has a condition called being in its fall. It's at the bottom of the wheel of fortune. It's in a dignity that it doesn't really super enjoy being in. So this is a planetary position where Saturn is going to have some challenges creating laws that might be fair, right? A lot of the times Saturn is the blueprint that Jupiter is going to create form from. So if you think about Saturn, it's sort of the idealistic. It's interesting, right? That Saturn would be associated with idealism, but I really do feel strongly about that. Saturn is sort of the binding agreements and arrangements that we have when we're creating law, when we're creating structure, etc. And with Saturn in Aries, Saturn is going to be hosted by Mars in a sign that's more concerned with individual benefit rather than collective benefit. And what we will often see with Saturn in Aries is the rise of authoritarianism, the rise of laws that are very draconic, that are very concerned with conflict. We see a rise in conflict potentially. And with Neptune happening in this same area, it's really interesting. I did an interview with Melissa LaFara of the Energetic Principles podcast that you could see in the collaboration tab here on Spencer Michaud Astrology. We had a long conversation about this particular aspect. And really, I think the gist of it is rise of authoritarianism, the need to taking risks, the somewhat of an illusion, Neptune, that we have to do everything ourselves, feeling that we don't have the help that we need. So we have to really strike out on our own and pioneer, and feeling bound to that. Saturn binds us to responsibilities. It says, you don't have any choice. You're going to have to do this. So in this case, it's going to feel like we are bound to making a new start because we don't have any other choice. This has happened in my family's life, Margaret. My partner is in the last week of her job that she's had for almost a decade. She's being laid off from her job at her farmer's market, and she's going to have to make a new start, and it's not her choice. Like, it's something that where we're going to have to make adjustments and like figure out how to launch into a new career, a new job, whatever it is. And I think it's one of those things that we can also fall into the glamour of an individual directed life. This is another thing that Neptune does. It tends to dissolve our boundaries between the physical and the spiritual. And we might be seeking redemption through that quality. I've been reading the Neptune book by Liz Green. I don't have it right next to me, but love Liz Green. I've been trying to, one of my goals in the next year or two is to read all of Liz Green's books. I really like her talk about mythology. She's a great student of mythology and comparative mythology and different cross-cultural historical manifestations of it. There's some people that are like, well, I don't really like the psychological part of Liz Green. It doesn't bother me that much, but I'm more there for Liz Green, the mythologist. But she talks a lot about this seeking redemption, this seeking of unification with spirit through the language of Neptune, through the primordial ocean. So if we put all those together, we might be feeling bound to striking out making a new start. We might be under a glamour that we have to do that for our own spiritual redemption. We may also see leadership under this delusion that, everybody has to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. This is one of the things that is really frustrating about, I think, this coming transit is the casting of everyone out on their own and saying, well, you're not a functional person if you need help. And I think that's the thing I'm most resistant to this aspect is as a social species, human beings need each other and we need to help each other. And a functioning society works best when we cooperate with one another. And this might be one where people feel like they're on their individual islands and have to figure out how to support themselves rather than cooperating with one another. I would also say, Margaret, this, speaking in the language of the decans, the first decan of Aries is associated with the Two of Wands card. On the Two of Wands card, you will see a figure that calls to mind Alexander the Great. Here it is. Here is this card, the Two of Wands. You can see it's called the Lord of Dominion. And basically, this card has a lot of language around colonization language from the early 1900s. And what I have seen when planets are moving through this in the larger scale, we saw this in the beginning of 2025, countries that don't have people's best interest in mind will start to try to annex other countries. We saw this with the Ukraine situation. We saw this with the rhetoric that was happening in the beginning of 2025 with the United States and Canada, which is very scary. And I think that I fear that this rhetoric is going to start up again with the Greenland type of thing, the Canadian annexation type of talk, the Ukrainian annexation type of talk. I think that that's going to start to come back to the collective. I really hope that's not the case because I think it's extraordinarily toxic, and I think it's a recipe for more conflict. But we have to read the symbols and see what we're looking at here. The other thing I would say about Saturn and Neptune together, one planet, Saturn, is a planet of structure. Neptune is a planet of dissolving that structure. So we may be feeling both simultaneously a desire to create new structure in our life, but also to dissolve it at the same time and dissolve the old one. So that's going to be a rough balance to try to work through. I will say this, in the positive terms, Margaret, I have been doing some research on a Vedic technique, from this book, The Science of Light by Freedom Tobias Cole. I want to preface what I'm going to say next with, uh, I'm very, very new to Vedic and Jyotisha and Eastern astrology. It is so very complex and multivalent and layered, and I am not an expert in that particular field. But I was starting to think a lot about, someone had brought to my attention that certain planets and certain dignities, when they are retrograde, will start to act like its opposite sign. And I wanted to clear that up. And I found this in Freedom Cole's great book on page 67, where he talks about retrogression or vakra. He says, the geometry of different elliptical orbits of the planets and the Earth around the sun can sometimes make a planet appear to move backwards in the zodiac. This motion is only in relation to our view from the Earth. This apparent backwards motion shows that even what seems to be moving backwards is still evolving from a universal perspective. Retrograde planets become 3 times stronger to give their effects. When a planet is direct, it is acting like the sun and the moon. When a planet goes retrograde, it is acting like Rahu and Ketu. It shows past desires that need to be fulfilled relative to the natural indications of that planet. Jupiter retrograde will give strong desires for children, wealth, or learning. Venus retrograde will give a strong desire for love and relationships. Benefics can become more beneficial when retrograde, and malefics can become more detrimental based on their nature in the chart. Now, here's what's important. When a debilitated planet, Nicha, becomes retrograde, it acts exalted, Ucha. This is called Nicha Bhanga. If I'm butchering these names, I apologize. Again, I'm very new to this tradition. The reversal of debilitation. When an Ucha planet is retrograde, it acts debilitated, Ucha Bhanga. Now, that to me is very fascinating for a number of reasons for the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Saturn will retrograde in its fall in Aries in late July of 2026, all the way to December 10th of 2026. Now, I went back and I did some research because Saturn has just retrograded in Aries in 2025. It retrograded from July the 12th all the way to September the 1st, acting somewhat exalted if other conditions were correct. And I went back and I looked through my journal. I looked through what was going on during those times. My beautiful daughter, she does have Mars in Aries, and that was one of the secondary conditions for this technique to work, like having having that retrograde planet, fallen planet, being conjoined or aspected by its ruler in dignity. But my beautiful daughter, her TikTok account blew up, like on the exact day that Saturn stationed retrograde in Aries, sort of leading to what I would consider an exalted type of experience when that planet, which was supposed to be in its fall, was stationing retrograde. And there was a period of great good fortune for my family between July 12th and September the 1st, a great expansion of business. I got over 1,000 new subscribers here on the channel that came from her TikTok account. She got a lot of new business. My partner got a lot of new business for her Third Coast Mojo account. My partner and I were going out and doing some things that we hadn't done since the beginning of the pandemic. We were kind of masking up and going into the movie theater and going into some dates and things like that. So it was really fascinating to me to see that there was really good fortune coming around that period of time. So I guess that's a long way of explaining that if you're feeling nervous about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, how do we reconcile that retrograde period where it could actually be bringing some very positive fortune from July the 26th to December the 10th? So I want you to keep an eye on that date, because I think that there's a possibility we could be seeing some really positive manifestations. I would also test this out with other planets as well. Mercury is going to retrograde in its fall in Pisces from late February to, I believe, the mid to late March. Okay, so another opportunity for Mercury to start acting exalted and bringing us good fortune potentially. So I hope that was helpful, Margaret, and interesting for the rest of you. Let's see. Wow, we got a lot of, I love this. So I'm going to go through the chat here. Steven says, I'm in an 8th house perfection year ruled by the moon, Cancer, 8th house. Yeah, right. So eighth house could be associated with resources, shared resources of others. It could be associated with things that happen after a completion, after death, legacies, inheritances. It could be something where you're maybe even feeling a little bit rebellious. There's sort of a secret signification to the eighth house where they call it the abode of Typhon, where it is resisting the rule of Zeus. It's resisting conformity. So there may be even some non-conformity tendencies as well this year, Stephen. Leanne says, throwing my Sag 8th house creds into the chat. Nearly full moon, 9 degrees, conjunct lot of fortune, 17 degrees of Saturn, Uranus 24. My 8th feels like a contradiction, sometimes scratching my head. Probably doesn't help that Jupiter is my 12th. Any insights for a Sag 8th house? Okay, let me see what I got here, Leanne. Let me throw your details in here. Let's see. Give me one moment, and thank you for putting that in the chart, or in the chat, I should say. Hopefully I'm spelling everything right here. Okay. Well, you didn't actually give me your birth information. Okay, so if you want to put your birth information in there, you can. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. If you want me to think about it more as a general type of thing. So let me think about this, because we don't actually have your chart details in here. So I have my Sag 8th house credentials into the chat. Nearly full moon. So you have Sagittarius on the 8th house cusp. The full moon is in your 2nd house then, correct? So your rising sign would be Taurus if we're doing whole signs potentially, right? Okay, thank you. This will help me a lot more just to see your chart. Okay, let's do that. June 11th, 1987 at 3:43 a.m. And thank you, Margaret, for the positive feedback on the last answer that we had there. I appreciate you being here, friend, and I hope everything's going well your way. Margaret is an excellent poet. Go check out her poetry if she wants to put some information about where you can find her poetry. She's a very talented writer, so go support her. Okay, so we've got, here's Leanne. Okay, can we see this on the chart? Now we've got 27 degrees Taurus with Venus conjunct the ascendant, Leanne. Is that correct? Are you seeing the right chart on here? Looks right to me. So here we've got, let's put the, now Leanne, do you have a, let me go back and see, I'm going back. So are you more curious about your natal placements, or are you more curious about this particular full moon? Either one is fine. I'll answer whatever we're looking at here. So what I'm noticing right away, let me see. Leanne has the sun in Gemini, the moon in Sagittarius, sun in Gemini, 2nd decan, okay? The moon in Sagittarius 1, but very close to the fixed star Antares at about 9 degrees of Sagittarius. Saturn is retrograde in Sagittarius in the 8th as well. She has a 3rd decan Taurus rising with Venus there, very powerful. Venus is the ruler, so Venus conjoining the ascendant is a very powerful position for that planet. So the ability, really, I think one of the strengths that Leanne might have is the ability to remediate challenging situations. I'm guessing maybe you'd be really good at work, not just artistic work with Venus conjoining the ascendant, but fixing problems, fixing things that people come to you and say, hey, Leanne, I need some help harmonizing this. This has been a real problem for a long time. This has fallen into corruption. Can you help me restore harmony to that? I'd be curious as to what you do for a living, Leanne. But with Taurus on the ascendant in that remediation phase, and with the midheaven in Capricorn 3, with Saturn, I mean, this almost looks like, I don't know, like a tax attorney or something like that. Someone who like works with other people's money. somebody who is trying to help them fix debt problems, something of that nature. Let me know if I'm anywhere close with this, but that's what I would say with like having the ruler of the midheaven in the 8th house, share other people's resources, but also with your ascendant as someone who would be able to fix things for people. She's got Mars in Cancer and Mercury in Cancer conjunct second decan in the 3rd house. All right, so you're asking about this 8th house specifically with the 12th house ruler. So here we're looking at Leanne's 8th house. It's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is providing resources from the 12th. It's at 22 degrees of Aries, okay? And having a ruler of a particular house in the 12th can be a challenging position. Let's just break down what Jupiter in Aries 3 might be asking of you. Jupiter is a planet that asks us to take conscientious action to create honor and merit within our lives. It's a planet of belief. It's a planet of law. It's a planet of religion. It is also something where we take actions that can bring us good fortune. And what Jupiter is asking, I think, in the 3rd decan of Aries is for you to utilize your humor and your charisma to win people over to your viewpoint. That decan is a Venus-ruled decan that talks a lot about charm, sex appeal, those types of qualities. Like think about Marilyn Monroe. Like I believe she had a really strong placement in this particular decan. And she had this ability to win people over to her side through all of those charismatic qualities. And with Jupiter here, you may need to do the same. The other thing I would say about this is think about like the coach of a football team, like a soccer team, right? Who is trying to give a motivational speech at halftime to the team that's down on their luck and is trying to really get them to get motivated, to get fired up. These are the kind of things that Jupiter is asking in that particular place. Now, with the moon, Saturn, and Uranus all in the 8th house, there may be a lot of suffering that comes through shared resources with other people, or you have to deal with people suffering through that. I think this is something where having that waxing gibbous moon, that almost full moon with Gemini sun and the Sagittarius moon, the sun in Gemini 2 is trying to hold all of these contradictions. It's trying to hold all the options open. With the moon there in the 2nd decan and also Saturn opposite the sun, there's probably a lot of conflict between trying to make your own money and share resources with others. Sometimes, like I've had in my own life, like when I've had some important 8th house things, a lot of it was, in my case, it was sharing visitation with a child, right? Like we had a lot of conflict in my experience over shared visitation type things. That's an 8th house matter too. And in this case, Jupiter is the ruler of both your 8th house and your 11th house. So there may be some challenges with resources with a group that you're a part of, a group that you are working with that have a shared sense of beliefs, etc. And with the sun opposite Saturn, that can feel like you're trying to bring all the elements together. You're trying to bring together body and spirit, or you have to bring together body and spirit. But there is a part of you with your solar position in Gemini that wants to keep all those options open. So this to me is a chart that says a lot of feeling the tension between completion and leaving all of the possibilities open to be explored. Now, with that moon on Antares, sometimes you have to dig deep with your intensity to move forward in your life. The other thing I will say about the moon in the first 10-degree section of Sagittarius is you have to make sure that the goals that you're pursuing are your own. There's a spirit in that decan called Loimos. Loimos was the god of plagues. And the god of plagues speaks towards a contagious enthusiasm, right? Contagions. But I will say that one of the things that Austin Coppock talks a lot about in his excellent seminal book on the Decans, 36 Faces, is you have to be very careful of becoming a parasitic host for the goals of other people. With the moon here representing the third house, this could be neighbors and siblings, right? This could be something where you're sharing a lot of resources with a sibling, especially with the Gemini sun. I don't know if you're a twin or not, but oftentimes you'll see that play out as well. But this is a placement where you have to be really careful of becoming that vehicle for someone else's vision. So, Leanne, what I would say is get really clear about what your specific vision is. See if you can bring together all of the spiritual and physical elements for success. Try not to get too attached to leaving all of your options open, and then utilize. Don't be afraid of, because with Jupiter here, you might be afraid of your charisma, your humor, etc. With it being placed in the 12th house, it could be a hidden part of you. Don't be afraid to use your humor. Don't be afraid to use your charisma. Don't be afraid to use your appeal to win people over, and start pursuing your own vision rather than getting caught up in someone else's. I hope that helps, friend. Okay, I'm going back to here. So, right. Let's see. Yes, it's me, Margaret. Isn't that's funny, because isn't there a book that like called "Yes, It's Me, God" or "Yes, It's Me, Margaret"? Like, isn't that a Judy Blume book? It's funny, but I digress. Let's see. So we've got some fellow Jupiter in the 12th here, so waving to each other. I love it, love it. Margaret's Cancer rising. Okay, so Margaret, this full moon for you is in the 12th, so make sure you're resting and not overburdening yourself with work at this point. Javier says, I feel like my whole life is different at the moment. Goodness, everything is different. So many changes, right? Cosmic Girl says, 4th house annual perfection, Cancer, Uncle Jupe, and the moon has helped me expand into esoteric practices, altars, and working with the wheel of the year. Absolutely enjoyed adorning my altar, having noted my spirit of fortune in the 4th. I love that. I love that. So you might be going through a full moon in your 3rd house this week, Cosmic Girl, right? Just maybe a peak of understanding your routines, maybe letting go of old routines and finding new practices that are more heretical. And I say that with all the positive implications of that word. The 3rd house is sometimes associated with intuition that arises from within, or spirituality that arises from within. It was called the house of the goddess and the joy of the moon. Whereas when we contrast it with the 9th house, which is related more towards orthodox as the joy of the sun. So this might be an important time for you to start those esoteric practices that are more related to your own inner wisdom rather than just some tradition that's outside of yourself. So I love that. Margaret says, Gemini moon, full moon was actually great for me creatively. I love it. Great for writing, right? I love that. Javier says, I'm trying to formulate a question, but maybe there are no real answers right now. It doesn't mean we can't discuss it. We can always answer a question with 10 more questions. That's the way I like to do it. I love that. Appreciate you, Princess Diaries. Appreciate you for being here, friend. Steven says, part of spirit is in my 11th house of Libra, part of fortune in Pisces. Okay, sounds good. Margaret says, great answer. Thank you. Appreciate you, Margaret. Okay. Let's see. Javier says, the Saturn is her time lord this year. Steven says, Loimos? Loimos. So I believe it's Loimos. I'd have to confirm that. Let's see. Let me just bring this to the stage here. There is Loimos, Loimos, the god of plagues, right? For Sagittarius 1, the poisoned arrow that we were talking about there. Yeah. And those spirits, those daimons, they're from a fragmentary Hellenistic text called the 36 Heirs of the Zodiac. You can also find it online, listed as Cosmos of Jerusalem. And they're sort of just give us an energy for that decan, like a spirit that's guiding sort of the wisdom of that decan. Leanne says, I have a degree in fashion. Okay. Venus on the ascendant, but I did work for local council in the housing department. I'm currently caring for an elderly planet. Thank you, Spencer. You are spot on. Perfect, Leanne. Yeah, right. Caring for an elderly person in your life, like that's definitely an eighth house, shared resources and challenges and finding your own way and vision throughout all of that. And that is a really great service that you're doing, Leanne. There's people need us. Watching our parents go through these things is really tough. I watched my mom kind of deteriorate after having a stroke, after a cancer diagnosis and a double mastectomy. She had an aneurysm and was left very disabled. And she eventually passed away from those complications, but it's never easy seeing our parents age, and it's a really good service that you're doing. And I think that that is a meaningful purpose, right? And it's temporary too. It's not a permanent thing. And I think eventually some of that freedom will come back to you. But I would also say, depending on your relationship with your parent, maybe it's a little fraught with peril with having Mars and Cancer. But enjoy all those moments if you can. Enjoy every moment, because you never know when they're gone, when they're going to leave. Margaret, are you there, Spencer? It's me. Perfect. Love it. That's right. Margaret says, okay, I think I might have a recurrence transit for me. I was born on a full moon in Gemini. Well, Margaret, there's probably some interesting things coming out with all of the inspirations coming out at the full moon. Complicate is here. What's up, Complicate? Nice to see you. It looks like you're is this I like this profile picture you have. It looks like we're inside of your laundry machine, your washing machine. I love it. Devin is here. What's up, Devin, aka Selene's Gateway? Nice to see you. Nice to converse with you over the past week or so as well. Devin, I was kind of confirming with Devin some of my thoughts about the the fallen retrograde planet. I thought he might have been someone who had turned me on to that. And we had a little discussion on that, which was nice. All right. Javier says, I'm pretty curious about these next 6 months, maybe some dates to watch for. Well, first couple dates, Javier. January, 3rd through the 9th, Venus and Mars are going to go into their Cazimi phase. That February 20th date we looked at, really important for the Saturn and Neptune conjunction coming together. March 10th is one I would keep an eye on, because Mars is going to be emerging from the beams of the sun. That's going to be, I think, really important right as we are moving towards the spring equinox. And then the other one that we kind of highlighted today was Saturn's retrograde period from July 26th to December 10th in Aries, in a place where it's fallen, but what could actually be a place of secret good fortune. It doesn't look good on the surface if we only look at it from a Western perspective, but if we start looking at it through the eyes of Eastern astrology, there could be some really decent manifestations that come, maybe even some exalted type manifestations that come between that period of time. And I use the example from last year when my daughter had some extremely good fortune as Saturn station, the day Saturn station retrograde. One of her TikTok videos went viral, and it brought her all sorts of new opportunities and kind of almost like a new life direction. So keep your eyes out for those dates. Javier says, come January, I have some real work to do towards my goal. Well, I wish you all the best of luck with that, Javier. We'll be here to witness the journey. The washer, yes. The laundromat. I love it. Complicate. It's a cool picture. I like it. Javier says, I'm scared of getting overwhelmed again. One day at a time, right? I would say in December, don't rush it. Let go of the old forms. Try to think about what your values are. I will continue to bang the drum for finding meaning in December, and then through getting clear about what our values are and what is meaningful to us, that will start leading us in the direction of what we need to do tangibly. But if you try to force things in December tangibly, it's not really the right time yet. It's more time to get in touch with a value system. Chinatown Hilton is here. Says my Neptune in Scorpio is transiting. My Neptune in Scorpio is square transiting Neptune in Pisces conjunct natal Chiron. Scorpio is 11th and Pisces is 3rd. My Neptune in Scorpio is square transiting Neptune in Pisces. Well, the first question I have, Chinatown, is generally Scorpio and Pisces would be trine one another rather than square. So that would be my first clarifying question, is if you have Neptune in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces would be trine it by whole sign right now. Scorpio 11th house, Pisces 3rd. So you have, if we're using whole sign houses, let's see, Capricorn rising. Okay. And this would be a full moon in your, excuse me, I'm just doing all the math in my head very, very slowly, in your 6th house. Okay. And maybe this is a period of time where you might feel like you have a lot of work that you have to do to get something to the finish line. I know my beautiful Capricorn rising partner is in the last days of her employment, and she's having to tie up a lot of loose ends and do a lot of mundane tasks that aren't very rewarding. But she's just trying to get through to the finish line to get to that new start. So this might be something of what you're going through too, with the full moon in Gemini in your 6th house, just trying to get through to that finish line. And it might be really unrewarding, hard work. But I think that the new start's coming for you pretty soon, especially Chinatown with the Venus and the Mars Cazimi that's happening in the first week of January in your 1st house. It could feel like a whole new you. So I guess hang in there and to the beginning of the year, because things are going to look a lot different for you by that time. Javier says, you're right. My father is coming to Canada December 19th. I need to make okay just to rest. Yeah, there you go. And that'll be a great meeting, I think, right? It's always nice to have the support of our family, especially if we haven't seen them for a long time, because I know that your family is in various parts of the world. Yeah, just enjoy that visit. Enjoy the support that comes with that, and maybe the two of you can put your heads together and figure out solutions for creating stability in your life, right? Being able to take care of all your responsibilities and to do it in a way that's not going to overwhelm you or burn you out. Those are I think those are good things to consider. And like I said, one day at a time, and being able to ask for help when we need it is a really important quality of humility. So I think that you've been doing the right things the last few weeks, and you know, it sounds like you were getting the help that you needed from your overwhelm, and that's going to lead you in the right direction. Chinatown says, yes, thank you. All right, appreciate you, friend. Steven says, this Sagittarius rising for the first time ever in my life. I do feel like I am in a revolutionary moment or a rebel. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty important full moon for you, Steven. This is one where you're having a full moon in your 7th house. So maybe a peak of contradictions between you and a partner, potentially, with Sagittarius rising. Mercury's in the 12th. So there may be a lot of letting go in regards to how you rest, how you spend time in solitude. There might be something where you're having to let go of a solitary existence and start moving more towards partnership or something of that nature coming for you around. All right, friends, let's take a stretch break. Stretch it out. These are great questions. I'm loving answering all these questions. So keep them coming. I think I can hang out for another maybe 30 minutes or so, but take a stretch, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, everyone who comes each week. And thank you for all of the new people that are showing up in the chat as well. It's always nice to see some new faces, and please don't be shy if you're listening. I love being able to meet new folks. Tell me your name if you feel comfortable. Tell me about your chart, and if you have a question, I love answering questions. I actually love answering questions more than I like dissecting just random chart placements, like statements. So if you do want to state something about your chart, ask me a question about it, and I'd be happy to add some more insight. Ani is here. Thank you so much for the super chat, Ani. Appreciate you, Ani. Thank you so much for your support. And yeah, folks, if you want to contribute to the chat today, you can do a little super chat like Ani did here. And it really does go a long way to helping me continue to do this work and spend time and be able to justify the time, I guess I would say. Time is, we know that we're always trading time for money. We're always trading time for sanity. We're always trading time for things. And it does make it a lot easier for me to do this work with all the donations. So I appreciate you, friend. Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Okay, so the other thing that we're going through here as we move forward, first of all, if you have any more questions, just stick them in the chat. I'm kind of here to answer all the questions today. Yeah, Devin says, time is sacred. It is sacred. And it is, I would say time is my love language, Devin. If you're familiar with the concept of love languages, sometimes people are acts of service, gifts, quality time is one, touch is another. I don't know how, there's definitely overlap with all of this. But I think for me, quality time is my love language. And for me, showing my love for all of you is spending time with you. And because my time is so precious to me. And I think that when we go through this kind of these exchanges, we have to feel like, oh man, how do we continue to make the time, right? And if it was up to me and like capitalism wasn't a thing, I'd just spend time with my friends talking about astrology and sharing wisdom. And for the most part, I kind of do that. But the realities of capitalism and of adult responsibilities do make it that you gotta kind of make some money every once in a while. So thank you so much, everyone. Leanne, thank you so much for your contribution. Appreciate you, friend. You are amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ani. Thank you, Devin. Thank you, all of you who have been supporting the work that I do here. If you aren't able to support in that way, just being here and commenting and liking and subscribing is helpful. So please do that as well if you can. Javier says, time is fucking weird. It is kind of weird. And I'm not sure it's exactly what we think it is. I'm not sure it's as linear as we think it is. I think it's, there's a lot of theories out there that talk about everything happening all at once, right? Like that movie, Everywhere, Everything, All at Once. And have time being sort of this multi-dimensional type of thing that's not this straight line that we think of it as. I tend to agree with that, but we definitely do experience it in various ways, sometimes very linearly. Stephen says, Venus and Pisces is an interesting love language for me, especially with it being in the beams of my sun and Pisces in the 4th. So tell me more about that, Stephen. What is it, what might that translate to? Like Venus and Pisces could speak towards wanting to merge, excuse me, emotionally with somebody, maybe wanting to share a belief system with somebody, wanting to share a very warm emotional experience. I'd be curious as to how that might translate to the 5 love languages. Ani says, so the theory is that a retrograde fallen planet is less debilitated. Yeah, that's kind of the really interesting astro theory of the day. There was an astrologer. I thought it was Devin, so I reached out to Devin. Was like, "Were you telling me about retrograde planets maybe having sort of a secret, dignity?" And he might have been the person, but we had a nice long conversation regarding. But yeah, I went and looked up in I think one of the only Vedic books I have, but a really good one, The Science of Light by Freedom Tobias Cole. And earlier in the broadcast, Ani, you're late, but I read on page 68 about retrogression, Vakra, okay? And also the concept of Nietzsche Banga, which is a reversal of debilitation. So go check out Tobias Cole's Science of Light. And I think that it's an interesting thing to explore. I do not claim to be an expert in Vedic astrology. That takes years and years and years of study. I have chosen to try to become fluent in traditional astrology or Hellenistic astrology before I even start to dive into Vedic. I think I might be starting to get to the point where I feel comfortable learning an entirely new language of astrology and not being confused by it. So I think this is maybe an entryway into this. This is often a timeline for astrology students. There are many people that start off potentially in like modern astrology, Western astrology, psychological or evolutionary astrology, any of those things. Sometimes you will see a transition into traditional or Hellenistic or Renaissance or some of those more ancient traditions. That is a change of thinking. And then a lot of times you'll see people who study traditional or Hellenistic astrology start to bring in Vedic or Jyotisha or Eastern astrology, because the interesting thing about that is that lineage has been unbroken for over 2,000 years. Whereas Hellenistic astrology had a broken lineage that sort of went underground, the Vedic or Jyotish lineage was unbroken. And there's actually a lot of crossover between Hellenistic astrology and Vedic astrology. A lot of differences, a lot of different language, but I think that it can help clear some things up. And I have noticed some of the more advanced students starting to embrace some of these techniques. So I thought I would dip my toe in it. But yeah. Javier says, I swear all my placements are debilitated. I think Vedic will bring a fresh air to your astrology. I hope so. I think that I tend to get... I have a consistency to my character, Devin, with the Taurus moon and the fixed rising and all of that. And that consistency can also lead to getting into a little bit of a rut sometimes. So I think it's good on one hand, and it can be challenging on the other. And I'm just excited to learn new things. It just really, it makes me feel excited when there's new techniques and new lenses to look through, new language to learn and to share, and to be able to see these things in a slightly different light. So, man, it is a little bit overwhelming though, like especially because the language is, I feel like the language is a lot more unfamiliar when we're studying Vedic. Like there's so many names, there's so many deities that the memorization is very intense. So I'm imagining it would be another decade-long experience, right? So, but that's the beauty of learning. That's the beauty of having this time and doing something with it that we enjoy and that we love, and where we want to help people. Honey's asking where Javiera is. I think Javiera is in Ontario. Other questions before we start wrapping here. Just another couple dates to keep in mind for December. I've gone through all of these dates in previous live streams, but just to kind of remind you, we do have some big things happening. Mars is moving into Capricorn on the 15th, and that's starting off the Jupiter malefic enclosure. And this is one that I think is pretty fascinating. Now here, I'm going to bring this to the screen again. I do want to show you, oh, we've got Leanne's chart still here. Thank you, Leanne, for sharing your chart. Now we have to see if we can get this. Let's see. So if we look at the 15th, as Mars moves into Capricorn, now we have Jupiter with Mars putting its ray on one side and Saturn casting its ray on the other side of Jupiter, creating this enclosed position. Now, just as we talked about a fallen retrograde planet acting potentially exalted. Now, Ani, if you're thinking of using this technique, recognize that there are other conditions that sort of need to come into play that there's a list for that I don't necessarily have this list here. But look up Nietzsche Banga Raja Yoga on I don't know, wherever you look things up. And there's a list of different conditions that need to be met to reverse the debilitation. Now, they also talk about in Freedom Cole's book, the reversal of an exalted planet. One little nuance that I didn't know that I learned this week is that in Vedic astrology, I don't believe that they use debility. They don't use detriment or exile. They just use domicile, exaltation, and fall. So like, for example, Venus in Scorpio would not necessarily be a debility in the same way as it would be in Western astrology. Now, I could be very simplifying that because I'm very new to this system. But one thing that I do feel fairly confident of is that the reverse of an exalted planet is also true if it's retrograde. So in this case, even though we have an exalted Jupiter, it's retrograde right now. It may be acting like a fallen Jupiter. And that is debilitated even further by Mars and Saturn holding it in check. So this period with Jupiter retrograde and in malefic enclosure could be pretty difficult for Jupiterian significations. Luckily, it's temporary. I believe that Jupiter stations direct at a very similar time that Mars emerges from the beams, around early March. So I know it stations direct at 15 degrees of Cancer because it's stationing direct exactly conjoining my natal sun. So this period of time between December 15th and January 7th could be particularly challenging for Jupiter stuff, but it could also extend into early March because of the retrograde shifting of dignity. Now, what does that mean? Well, Jupiter is hanging out in a decan of Cancer that's associated with scarcity and the contrast with surplus. Like what do we do if we have more than we need? What do we do if we don't have enough? Does our abundance take away from someone else? Does our wealth create poverty in somebody else? Those are questions that are where third decan Cancer is very concerned with. Jupiter there would love to be able to create a situation where we benefit without someone else suffering. That may be challenging with this retrograde malefic enclosure. We may feel like we're trying to increase our prosperity, and it may feel like someone else is having to lose something because of that. It's not an easy thing to answer. It's not an easy question to answer. I'm feeling this myself. Yeah, Ani says, baby, gotta eat. No need to justify, right? Yeah, Ani says, I'm being frugal to get some of Tanya's materia. Thanks for always showing up. Appreciate you, Ani. Yeah. And Ani, this is an important question that's going to be coming up for both Tanya and I moving forward in the months ahead. Because we're losing really the main source of our income. My partner's job was a main support system for our family and for all of the bills and the home that we live in. We are going to have to think about how to increase our prosperity, and it may need to facilitate changes in not only her way of doing business, but my own, which is frustrating for me. If I'm going to be 100% honest with you, I have Mercury in this decan retrograde, and I'm very acutely aware, maybe even to my own self-undoing with Mercury in the 12th, that my prosperity sometimes comes at the expense, or can come at the expense of someone else. So that's going to be, I'm going to be living this Mercury, this Jupiter malefic enclosure, because there's a necessity in our life to make changes where we really need to the exchanges that we have need to start manifesting material income. If I'm just being flat out blunt about it, I'm going to have to start trading more of my time for actual money rather than just for the good feeling that I get like doing astrology or connecting with my community. Don't get me wrong, it's my favorite thing to do. But the reality of the situation is that some changes will have to be made with that. And it might be painful as an individual to try to brainstorm on how to do that and stay true to my ethics and my integrity. So that's where my experience of that Jupiter malefic enclosure, I can see it coming, because sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. When you're facing the possibility of like, oh boy, I don't know how we're going to pay our mortgage in a couple months. Like, you just kind of have to figure some shit out. And if astrology doesn't pay the bills, then something else will have to. And that's always kind of painful as well. So, but I think that this is an awesome community, and it's a generous community. And I'm someone who wants to be able to keep this information available to the most amount of people possible. But we may just have to make a few adjustments here and there so that Tanya and I aren't out on the street in a couple months, because we can't do any live streams if we're homeless. You know what I mean? That I'm being hyperbolic, but the point stands is that to be able to do this work, you have to take care of the goose that is, hopefully laying some golden eggs. You have to take care of your body. You have to take care of your own needs, so that you don't just burn yourself out, and then you can't give. You can't give from a place of complete lack. And we should all consider that during this Jupiter malefic enclosures. You have to take care of yourself to be able to provide services and resources for your community. If you're doing so at your expense all the time, it's just not sustainable, especially if a circumstance changes. Ani says, Devin, where'd you hear this from? Austin? Yes, I'm going to speak for Devin if he's not here, but I think Devin has been studying with Austin, and there's a lot of techniques that we've been talking about that have come through that program, which is excellent. Leanne says, I'm sure I heard somewhere that in Vedic astrology, if the ruler of a bad house is placed in another bad house, that is sort of a reversal too. I shall dig around and see what I can find where I read it. I would love to hear. Yeah, tell me more, Leanne, because again, I'm still learning about that specific tradition. And Austin's a great example of this. Austin's a great example of someone who is really well versed in psychological astrology, but then started really diving into traditional and Hellenistic and Renaissance astrology, and now is starting to incorporate Vedic and Jyotisha into his practice. And he's a decade ahead of me. So I'm a decade behind the Chris Brennans, the Austin Kopics, the Adam Ellenbosses. They started 10 years before I did. So maybe this is a natural progression for folks like us that are really just never satisfied, right? And want to keep learning. Yeah, let's group hive mind it and see what we can come up with. All right. Let's see. Ooh, some great comments here. Ani says, I have the ruler of the 6th and the 12th, and she's busted. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, we'll have to, there's so many nuances with that, right? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Devin may have popped in and out here. Stephen. K-Wow says, I relate to the drive to keep learning very much. Whatever comes next, onward. Yeah, and I think that one of the challenges I've had at this Gemini full moon, and oh, wow, Love It Moon. Thank you so much, Love It Moon. Appreciate your generosity. Thank you. That is a very generous super chat. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming to the live streams and for your support. It really means a lot to me. And yeah, this is a time when Tanya and I could use that support. It really does mean a lot. So thank you so much. So I was on this tick about my experience of the Gemini new moon, right? Or full moon, excuse me. I think my experience this week was like, I've got this, I'm a book collector, and I've been collecting books, astrology books I've really intensely been collecting astrology books since about 2017. I've always had a library of metaphysical books and astrology books, but I really started to be like, I got to get everything I can get my hands on around that period of time, about 8 years ago or so. And I would often, my propensity to buy books would outpace my ability to read all of them. So there is a lot of books staring at me that are like, you need to read me. You need to read me. I want to read every single Liz Green book. I want to read every Ben Dykes translation that I've purchased, which is quite extensive. I've just, this past year I bought a whole shelf's worth of Tolkien and like all those things. I've got books on nature books. I've got Robin Wall Kimmerer books. I've got Merlin Sheldrake books. I have books about, I want to read this one, Cradle to Cradle. This is a great one about planned obsolescence. I've got some great books here by Charles Eisenstein that talk about different economic models, sacred economics. And that's what I've been feeling with the Gemini full moon, is just like, man, there's just so many things I want to do. And often what that will lead to is paralysis. It leads to doing nothing. But what I did this week to overcome that, as I said, I just need to sit down and the next move will be shown to me when I start engaging with one of these things. That anxiety is going to start being released when I start engaging. So I just started reading Liz Green's Neptune book, and there was all sorts of things that came out of that. And when I got really curious about something else with the science of light, kind of the Vedic technique, I picked that book up and engaged with that. And I was fully present with that in that moment, rather than feeling guilty about what I wasn't doing. So I think that's a great way to deal with this Gemini energy, is sometimes you just get started down one track and you let that information lead you to the next path, rather than getting stuck in this, like they call it, my partner and I have talked about this, we call it the dark playground. And sometimes this is associated with ADHD. But if you think about Gemini, it's the most probably ADHD sign out there. It's just about attention. When it's split in so many different directions, instead of doing the thing that it is you're supposed to be doing, you do all sorts of things that are sort of like it, but not it. And then you feel bad about it. And then it makes you feel paralyzed and all of these things. So yeah, it's quite a practice in focus. I would say the other thing that I've been doing is I set a timer for reading. I, like many other people in modern civilization, I have a smartphone, and it is a distraction-making machine. And I've had to just force myself to turn it off, put it down, set a timer. I do it for 45 minutes at a time. If I can read for one 45-minute block, I will focus on that, and then I'll get up and move around and get a snack or whatever, and then I sit down, and if I'm feeling it, I will do another 45 minutes. And this week, there was a day where I did 5 of those, and it felt really good, and I got a lot of reading done. So there's just little hacks that you can do to focus your attention, right? Yeah. Big ballin'. Love it Moon is big ballin' on. He says, yeah, I really appreciate that. Love it Moon. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. It looks like you're joining us from the UK potentially. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate our international friends. And yeah, appreciate you, friend. Okay. Let's see. There should be some kind of AA group for book buying addicts. From your mouth to the divine's ears. I'm bad. I am a Jupiter Virgo in the second house with Jupiter on the fixed star Thuban at 7 degrees of Virgo. And that fixed star is associated with the hoarding dragon of the constellation Draco. So I have a few dragon hordes in my house, but it's information. It's usually like I'm a collector. What I like collecting is knowledge. I have had some diversions with collecting some cards. I was a baseball card collector, and in the very recent past, I started collecting Lord of the Rings game cards. But I've since moved on from that, and I'm trying to buy less things. I'm trying to just like go through the things I've got. I have so much amazing material to engage with that if I never bought another book for my entire life, I probably wouldn't be able to finish all the ones that I have. And that's exciting on one level, but also like our time is limited on this planet, and sometimes we need to just dive into it and get her done. Yes, we've got people around the same mindset here. The AA group for book buyers anonymous, right? Ani says, these transits are holding up my place to live. It's transiting my IC, started with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Jupiter ruled. Oh, that's tough. Yeah. What house is that? So I'm just thinking, Ani, I know that you have 12th house Aries, right? If I'm remembering correctly, Taurus rising. So your 4th house would be Leo. Is that right? I don't know. You have to help me with that. Javier says, medicated Gemini here. I can agree with these statements. Love it. Oh, love it, Moon, coming up to us from Scotland. Oh, perfect. Perfect, friend. My grandmother has some Scottish heritage. She was her maiden name was Mackenzie, and she was born in London, Ontario, but her parents were from Scotland. So I love it. I love it. I would love to visit that land someday. It feels like an ancestral land for me on some level, and I bet it's just beautiful country. Devin says, that's a great practice. You might be curious to know that the moon has its own hours and they are 48 minutes long. Well, there you go, right? So the 45 to 48 minute type of section is lunar approved, right? And as a Cancer Sun and Mercury, maybe my brain works in lunar segments. Ani says, I have biz ideas for you and T. Once I get settled, I'll follow up. I would love to hear it. Send them my way if you've got business ideas, send it to us. We are open to new ideas, and we're open to new ways we can serve you as a community through our knowledge, through our wisdom, through any type of products that Tanya's making with Third Coast Mojo. I think you're going to see a lot of new stuff coming out from Third Coast Mojo in the year ahead. I think that we have a little bit of runway where we might be able to be okay for a little bit, where I think we're going to put a lot of energy into that business and into my own business, and maybe do some more offerings with more classes. If you have ideas for classes that you'd like to do, if you have ideas for products you'd like to see from Third Coast Mojo, please feel free to share, because we are open to all of those possibilities at this time. Been kicking around some ideas just about even just some more, just like I have a tendency to teach classes that are a little bit esoteric, that are just like, oh, this is something I'm really interested in. But if at some point I need to conform a little bit and do like a Astro Fundamentals or like a Hellenistic Astrology Fundamentals course, if that is something of interest that people would like to do, I'd be happy to put something like that together as well. So all ideas are on the table. Love it, Moon says, Scotland. It is stunning. Oh, I bet it is. Oh, I bet it's so beautiful. I love just being out in northern latitude nature and just seeing all of the rock formations, the beautiful trees and the moors and all of this. Like, oh, I bet it's just gorgeous. Someday, friend. Maru says, Scotland has a special place in my heart. Felt so magical. I've always wanted to go back. Oh, yes. Someday, friends, we'll get there. All right. So that's our Jupiter and Malefic enclosure. I guess my advice on this would just be patient. A lot of us want to make New Year's resolutions at the end of the year. I would really recommend setting some intentions when the sun moves into Capricorn, but just be patient about the unfolding of it. And especially, wait to make any big moves until both Venus and Mars are out of that cazimi, and maybe even be patient enough to see them emerging from the beams. Like Mars is going to emerge from the beams in March. But just think of this in the cycles of nature. We just forget so much to connect with nature. But in a society that is very attached to number go up economics, we don't appreciate the times where we need to rest and we need to be a little bit more hibernation kind of based. And in the northern hemisphere, in the middle of winter here, you're not supposed to move fast. Everything moves a little bit slower. You're reflecting, you're getting ready for that burst of creative energy at the spring equinox. So kind of tuck in and start to become reflective, build new ideas, but don't feel like you have to act on every single thing that comes up until maybe the time is more appropriate, like the spring equinox. And that can release you from a lot of self-recrimination. I know that it's so tough sometimes to feel like we're keeping up, but if you align it with the cycles of nature, I think you can have a lot more successful outcomes. And astrology can help us with that for sure. All right. So I think that is probably close to as far as I want to go with the astrology that's unfolding. I have more thoughts in the astrology of December, and I would direct you towards that video if you have not engaged with it. If you want a day-by-day breakdown of that, go check out last week's full moon in Gemini live stream if you want to learn more about this week's full moon and see how it might unfold over the next few weeks ahead, and get more thoughts leading up to the new moon in Sagittarius, the Sagittarius 3 new moon. If you have any more questions before I start wrapping for the day, please put them in the chat. I do want to let you know that this is the last day for my sale, for my 50% off webinar sale. Lots of information in that store right now. All my Decan webinars, they're all 3 to 4 hours long. They cover tarot, decans, fixed stars, mythology, all associated with those 10-degree sections. I really put a lot of energy, effort, and attention into those webinars. That the series I did with my partner, Dignity and Devotion, each of those is almost about 4 hours long. So even if you purchase those and you can't engage with all of it at once, it's a really great way to just have an archive of information to refer to. And then of course there's the Stars and Cards talk that I did that talks about the connection between astrology and tarot. And I really think that's a nice entry point for doing the type of astrology that I do here on this channel. And especially learning the concept of entraining ourselves to various systems. I talk about that a lot in that talk. You can also find Third Coast Mojo with a holiday sale. I think Tanya's holiday sale may go a little bit longer, but you might want to get your orders in pretty soon. So that if you're thinking of giving these as a gift or getting them as a gift, you want to make sure that you can get those ordered so that the shipping can happen before Christmas. So go support Tanya, Third Coast Mojo, all sorts of cool stuff there. She's got this new Midnight Money soap that's amazing. She's got some Jupiter stuff coming out very soon. So follow her on Instagram at Third Coast Mojo and TikTok if you want to know when new stuff's coming out, or sign up for my newsletter. I often will help announce some of those things with the newsletter. So I did pull an I Ching and an animal for you all today. I like to do that each time, right? And I'm checking in with the chat here before I do that. Maru says, I was wondering about Saturn and Aries. As the god of time, what do you think about consequences? Do they show at the beginning, like past choices consequences, for good or bad, or during the transit? That's an interesting question. Let me think about that. I was wondering about Saturn and Aries as the god of time. I love these questions about Saturn because all of you are going to be really excited about the animal that I got. It's a new one that we haven't seen yet, and it's very Saturnian. As the god of time, what do you think about consequences? Do they show at the beginning, like past choices consequences, or during the transit? I think that is a very layered question, actually. I think that Saturn, well, it's twofold. I think yes is the answer, and I think both. I think that Saturn can drive us to take actions that will have delayed manifestations or delayed gratifications. Like it says, you've got to do this right now, but you don't necessarily, you can't see the result of your actions right away. I think also it will show us a completion of a previous cycle. So that's my cop-out answer, is that it's both. But yeah, Saturn is not always bad. Like if you've been doing the things that are in alignment with your purpose, your Tao, your integrity, Saturn can give wonderful benefits. So keep that in mind, as if you feel like you're getting away with something, it can also bring you consequences, even if you don't see it right away. And life always catches up with us, for better or for worse, right? Ani says, the timer to read is kind of brilliant. I think I'll follow your lead once I have a nice space to read. I'm always happy to inspire people towards doing more reading, right? And yes, in this age of distraction, we have to fight back and reclaim our time. I saw an article recently I sent to my daughter, who's Gen Z. It was just talking about the brain rot that happens from short form video. And another reason why I actually just like doing these long form things. I think that holding your attention span for a long period of time, spending 2 hours with you rather than 2 minutes, is helping us to have the type of depth of relationship that you don't just get that often anymore. I think it's really valuable. And even though we're still doing this in a digital way, we're having to really like focus for a long period of time. And I really think that there's a lot of value to that. And there's a lot of brain rot that happens from just consuming short form content all the time. And I think it's really good to get off of your phone when you can and dive into a book, even if it's for 45 minutes at a time. It's going to put you so far ahead of the game. Like there's so many, think of all the people out there that just, they don't even read anymore. Like they don't even read books, and that to me is crazy because knowledge is really powerful and it is empowering as well. And it's just going to make you just a better creative problem solver over time and keep you more open and fluid. And it's going to create new neural connections. It's just so, so valuable. Love It Moon says, I have Saturn in my 10th in Aries. Oh my goodness. So you're going to have Saturn return in your 10th house in Aries, Love It Moon. So potentially some responsibility coming your way with your job, right? I would assume that you're a Cancer rising, right? So might feel a lot of pressure potentially to be public, and that's not always easy for Cancerian types. Sometimes we want to be visible on our own terms, and this might be a time where you just have a lot of responsibilities, but you might have to take a pioneering track. One of the things that Cancers tend to like to do, just speaking from my own experiences, sometimes we want to see if something's going to work out before we dive into it. And the challenge with Saturn and Neptune there is you might not have the luxury of seeing if someone else succeeds or fails before you have to take the leap. And so that risk-taking thing might be really baked into your chart. The other thing I would warn you about, Love It Moon, is just be careful of authority figures in your life. Like sometimes authority figures can be a little bit draconian with Saturn and Aries. If you have it natally, and when you have a Saturn return, you might have to deal with an authority figure that feels threatening or intimidating. So put all your good boundaries in place around that, and I think you'll find a success with that. Ooh, and Maro's got it in the 11th house. So all of those things apply to the groups that you're a part of, Maro. Like make sure you have those healthy boundaries. You might have to be a pioneer within the group and stand out from the group a little bit, and it might not be your choice, but I think it could lead to some good significations. For both of you, keep those July 26th through December 10th dates in mind as Saturn is retrograding. And we talked about that technique about a fallen planet acting as an exalted planet. So you might have a good, public facing experience. Love it Moon during that period. And Maro, you might have a nice social experience around that time. Ani says, Jupiter is transiting my 3rd and is retrograding my IC to the degree. Yes, you got the house right. Rahu in Leo 4th, but my IC is likely to culprit with malefic enclosure and Mercury retrograde triggering it. Okay. Oh, let's see. Yeah, so sometimes when those planets start going direct, a lot of those things start to unravel and unfold, and I think that with the Jupiter's in the 3rd, retro to my IC degree. So your IC is in the 3rd house rather than the 4th. That sometimes happens when we use whole sign houses, right? So I guess I would look to March if that's the case. Look to beginning of March when Jupiter starts stationing direct for your home house situation to start becoming clearer. Javier says, I agree with that. And Saturn, I'm heavily ruled by Capricorn. My lessons are quite intense, but I'm very strong now and wise. Yeah, Saturn will temper you, right? Forge you in the fire, so to speak, or forge you through suffering oftentimes. And this is true for us 12th housers as well. Being the joy of Saturn, sometimes our wisdom comes through suffering, and I can attest to that in my own life. Maro says, it's getting very hard to read books indeed. I force myself to meditate this full moon. Good. Sometimes just shutting off the noise for a little period of time and you'll realize once you start doing that, you start to feel really good. I mean, if you think about how much existential dread the like social media and the news can really arise in us, when you get away from it for a little while, it's such a relief. And it doesn't mean we want to ignore the social issues that are happening around us. We have to still participate, but we don't have to participate. We don't have to do it 24/7. We don't have to be having anxiety about every single problem everywhere in the world, every single minute of the day. It's just not how we were evolved to be. And you're allowed to rest every once in a while. Rest your brain. It's good self-care. Love It says, I'd be so lost without my books. Me too, friend. They are some of my most cherished prized possessions. Strong little goat, Javier is. Yep. Capricorn rising. Love It. Moon is a Cancer rising. So we've got opposite risings here in the chat. Appreciate you, friend. Dove Girl says, I just finished shopping. Are you in my store? Did you get some webinars? Did you take advantage of the sale? Oh my goodness. You should do so. Or go to Third Coast Mojo, right? Now to get it all home and put it away. Oh, well, you want other shopping. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I hope that you found some treasures, friend. There's a little sale going on if you want to get some webinars or if you want some magical material from Third Coast Mojo. They make great gifts. Oh, this is Marietta. Oh, what's up, Marietta? Nice to see you. See, yeah, you see you had a whole different screen name, different picture. I'm glad that you tell me who you are, because now we have a prior relationship. So thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate you. Javier says, I've got a lot of Cancer placements, Venus and Mars. A lot of 7th house stuff, right? All right, friends. Let's talk about the I Ching for Sagittarius season. What do you say? Okay. I did pull an I Ching for Sagittarius season, and the I Ching that I got was hexagram number 54. And hexagram 54 translates to subordination. Not the funnest hexagram, but the I Ching never pulls punches. You know, it tells us when things are a little bit rough. It also has a translation to the marrying maiden, or playing a subordinate role, keeping in the background. You know, in ancient, very hierarchical, patriarchal Chinese civilization, sometimes there was an arranged marriage with like a concubine, right? You had the first wife, and then you had the secondary wife who didn't have as much influence. And this hexagram talks about that ancient relationship where we may be in a position where we are near the object of interest, but we don't necessarily have as much influence as we would want in the situation. So here's some more insights from Jack Balkin. Under the current circumstances, you must play a subordinate role. Your contributions are not being fully recognized, and your worth is not fully appreciated. However, for the moment, there's nothing you can do about this. If you try to assert yourself, people will regard it as inappropriate. You will either be rebuffed or ignored. The text compares your situation to that of a secondary wife in a family in ancient China. The secondary wife had to behave with caution and circumspection. She could not shine too much lest she incur the wrath of the first wife. She had to be demure and self-sacrificing in order to preserve the harmony within the family. Her position was very difficult and required the utmost tact and reserve. But if she behaved with a suitable discretion, she could find a place of peace and dignity within the household. The best strategy right now is to be flexible and adaptable. You are not going to receive much recognition for your efforts, so you should be sensible. If your expectations are too unrealistic, then you will only make yourself unhappy. Don't be angry or resentful. Life is not always fair. Accept the situation for the time being. Stay out of the limelight and don't try to draw attention to yourself. Perform your assigned role without show or ceremony. Instead of bemoaning your fate, consider instead how you can be of service and make a contribution. Really important, folks, as we go through a number of squares, where we didn't really talk about as much of the square of Mars and Saturn that's going to be perfecting this week, but a lot of squares between Sagittarius and the Pisces planets that may slow things down for us. So we might not be able to do everything that we want to do. So think about how we can be of service and how can we prepare moving forward. So there is a changing line. It says the maiden given in marriage exceeds the allotted period. She marries late at the proper time. He says, to extend the allotted period means to delay past the end of the prescribed period of betrothal in a marriage agreement on the grounds that the time originally agreed upon was not appropriate. It also means to delay marriage past the age when a woman would ordinarily be betrothed and therefore to risk becoming an old maid in a strongly patriarchal society. Obviously, this posed a real danger of poverty and perpetual dependence under the most unfortunate circumstances. Nevertheless, the story has a happy ending because the woman marries the right person at a later time without compromising herself, and this means that she did marry at the right time after all. So this is a metaphor, right? This might not be the values of our modern society, but this is metaphorical. And how do we think about this in a way that applies to our modern situation? Here's where he gets to the meat of this. If people offer you opportunities that you feel are not right for you, it is wise to refuse them. You may worry that you will be left behind and that the world will pass you by. You may fear that other people will think you are being foolish not to snap up an attractive possibility when it is offered. But do not let these opinions sway you. You alone must decide what is consistent with your beliefs and what would be an unacceptable compromise of your principles. Have faith. Ultimately, you will be rewarded for your perseverance and your unwillingness to betray your values. Remember, we talked about this time to get clear on your values. Hold on to your vision and keep focused on what endures. In the long run, you will be vindicated. All right, so stay true to your values, stay true to your vision. I know I've talked a lot about the changes that are happening in my household, but I plan on staying true to my values and true to my vision while making the appropriate adjustments to be able to support my family. And those values that I have are that I want to spend time with my community. I want this information to be available to the most amount of people. I want to help people. I want to give people tangible, practical advice. I want to be a teacher of astrology, tarot, metaphysics, etc. And I want to continue to be a bridge between the liminal space of the spiritual and the grounded, practical side of the physical world. And if I stay true to those values, all of the answers are going to come. And all of the right situations and all of the right people, all of the right resources, all of those are going to fall into place. So how do you make that mission statement this month without pushing it, without forcing it? And instead of saying, what can I get? Say, what can I provide? Because those reciprocal relationships, we think about what can we provide that provides value, and then how do we open ourselves up to receive reciprocal value in exchange? So think about those exchanges. Think about how you can be true to your values first, and then the practical part will find you. This is changing to the hexagram overseeing, number 19, approach, oversight, cooperation. By tradition, this hexagram is a symbol of springtime. More generally, it symbolizes a happy, joyous time of natural progress and advancement, like the first stirrings of spring. The low advance upward to the high, who happily accept them. Matters move forward naturally. Relationships thrive. Success blossoms like the flowers of spring. However, just like growth during springtime, everything must take its natural course. Do not try to hurry things. Let matters develop in a natural and healthy fashion. Full growth is not achieved in the spring, but in the summertime. Thus, you should not become impatient. Success will come eventually if you lay a strong foundation now and nurture things appropriately. See what we're talking about? This is the time in Saturn times when we move forward into Capricorn and Aquarius season, past the vision that we create in Sagittarius season. Think about the progression between those things. You become clear with your vision. All the leaves fall from the trees during Sagittarius season, and you can see a great distance. That's the vision of the archer. So you got to know where you're going. You try to get there, and by the time you get to this Capricorn and Aquarius area of the year, you are starting to lay the very foundations, very slowly, brick by brick, right? When we get to the Piscean energy part of the year, we're dissolving all of the boundaries between us and others, getting ready to infuse our spirit into a new body, to separate from the collective. We merge with the collective, and then we separate from the collective in Aries, and we launch all of these new things that we've been building over the winter. So I think if you can come in alignment with those cycles and find the patience necessary to commit to your vision first, the manifestation that you have at the spring equinox and beyond will be so much more powerful. One of the things that we have lost touch with in this instant gratification culture is patience, is building things with quality rather than quantity. I'm always been a believer in quality over quantity. And we can fill the world with slop, or we can fill the world with things that will last, that will be meaningful, that will last the test of time. And I'm here to encourage a counter movement towards things that will last, that take time, that where we have to learn through our successes, but also through our failures. And I think those are the things that are going to let us be good citizens of this planet, not just be successful in a corrupt system. So that is the hexagram. I'm going to check in with the chat before I reveal the animal. So Venus, I have Love It Moon says I have Venus and Mars conjunct Cancer in my first house on the ascendant. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of stuff on the ascendant there. So you're going to have all of these beautiful Kazimis in your 7th house of partnership, friend. So that'll be exciting. Maru says, oh my God, I got hexagram 54 for the full moon. Well, you and I are right in alignment, friend, right in alignment. Saturn never begs, Honey says. I love it. Yeah, that's true. You just get to work, right? Marietta says, this is my other account. All right. And my rising is Sagittarius. So you have a big full moon today in your 7th house as well, friend. So that's awesome. I hope the partnership is going well for you. Let's see. Amazing. Love It Moon. Thank you, friend. Javier says, very helpful words. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Javier. Ani says, yes, I see third. Better not be living in a hotel until March next year or I'm in trouble. Hope Mercury leaves shadow will do the trick. Jupiter ruling Mercury links to my 8th of shared resources. Well, I'm sending you good vibes, Ani, and I hope it does work out sooner rather than later so that you can have the security that you deserve and that everyone deserves. All right. Very interesting. Maru says, thank you. Okay. All right. So we have, friends, one more thing to discuss, and it is the animal. Now, I will preface this with saying that I've started, like Devin suggested, I started using a random number generator for my bibliomancy to get a page number in these books. And it's led to some really unique outcomes because I think I was flipping more towards the middle, and now I'm getting things on the fringes. And in this animal frequency book by Melissa Alvarez, which you can see is just beat to hell because I use it so much, she also has mythological animals. And this, I think, is the first mythological animal on the show. And it is so appropriate for Capricorn season, which I find ironic. But maybe Sagittarius is helping us come through to Capricorn season, right? So check this out. Here is the sea goat, right? So this is the animal. This is, of course, Precus, the sea goat, associated with Capricorn. And maybe this is a good lesson. Maybe this is preparing us for a really important Capricorn season. But I'm going to read to you from Melissa Alvarez, Animal Frequency, because I think that there's some lessons here with Precus in particular. Precus is one of the mythological sea goats. And I think that this really comes into alignment with this full moon, and especially the letting go of old forms that we've had to go through with the grand water trines that we are now completing. So keep that in mind. We have a sea goat, right? We're talking about oceanic themes with the grand water trine. We're trying to find meaning in our life. We're dealing with questions of time. We've been talking about time and Saturn this whole talk, right? And yet here we get the symbol of one of the Saturnian symbols, the sea goat of Capricorn. The sea goat mythology says that Kronos, Saturn, created Precus, the first sea goat from which all others came. The sea goat is half goat and half fish. The sea goat is half goat and half fish. very intelligent, can speak, and was favored by the gods. Excuse me. Young sea goats are drawn to the shore. Using their goat legs, they pull themselves out of water and bask in the sun. The longer that they are on shore, the more they transform into regular goats, until one day their tail completely changes into hind legs and they lose their ability to talk and think. This reminds me of like maybe the shore is spending too much time on our phones with short form content. We lose the ability to think and reason, or maybe using AI to the point where we don't think. But I digress. Precus uses his ability to turn back time and revert his lost children back into sea goats, which also reverses everything on Earth. So Precus is the only one who knows what will happen. After reversing time on several occasions, Precus finally realizes he can't control his children. When Precus is the only sea goat left, he begs Kronos to let him die because he can't stand being the only one. Kronos lets Precus live out his immortality in the sky by transforming him into the constellation Capricorn. Now he can watch over his children the world over. Sea goat symbolizes letting go and allowing others to live their own lives. It has a talent for being ambitious, careful, disciplined, faithful, loyal, patient, practical, prudent, and with its sense of humor. Has challenges around being careless, fatalistic, holding grudges, miserly, overly conventional, pessimistic, rigid, or tactless. When sea goat appears, it means to let go of something or someone you've been trying to control. This means you may think you have the best interests of someone at heart when you try to control their actions, but you can't control someone else. Once they reach adulthood, each person has to be free to make their own decisions and follow their own path of spiritual growth and enlightenment. There will be mistakes made along the way, but that's when the most spiritual growth happens. When you try to control someone else, it is usually due to your own fears and insecurities. Once you recognize these traits in yourself, as Precus did, then you can stop being controlling and allow things to move forward as the universe intended. This animal assists you when you need to have patience, be disciplined, and be loyal. Precus was patient as he tried time and time again to keep his children from leaving the sea. He practiced discipline as he repeatedly turned back time to give them another chance to stay. He was loyal in his devotion to them even though he was trying to control their actions. This means now is a time to be patient with others, to give them a chance to make up their own minds. Even if you don't agree with their decision, your loyalty is needed as you stand by those you love. Maintain discipline over your own actions so that you don't negatively influence those you are trying to help. Keep your sense of humor, be faithful to your cause, and practical in your plans. I think that's really good advice, especially because we're trying to get clear with our why. Especially because we're going to see a new Cazimi of Venus and Mars in January in Capricorn. Especially also because we're learning to let go of all those old forms with the grand water trines, especially at this full moon being hosted by Mercury going through that third 10-degree section of Scorpio. I think it fits really well. And I think learning to let go is tough. And as a parent, it's really hard. And I'm a parent of a little baby sea goat who's now an adult sea goat. And there's been a lot of moments where I had strong opinions about the direction they should be going with their life. And eventually I had to relent and say, it's your life. And now these are your choices that you need to make, and have faith in them to make those choices and to stop trying to turn back that clock. There are certain things that if we keep trying to hang on and hang on and hang on, it's impossible. It's destiny for it to leave. It's destiny for that form to change. And we're just going to continue to make ourselves sad if we try to hang on to those things that want to leave our lives. When you let go of things, it allows the new things to come into your life, the new forms, right? I think it's really super important to come into alignment with liberating the spirit that animates the form rather than being so attached to the form. And this is, I think, really beautiful manifestation of all these planets going through the bending of the nodes, moving away from attachment to form and moving into the sea, right? Into the ocean, back to the ocean of consciousness. It's almost like a reversal of the sea goat story, where we're heading back to the sea now. We're heading off of land and into the ocean rather than out of the ocean and into onto land. So maybe that's a good message for us, is let's head into our own spiritual oceans, our primordial oceans of creation, rather than being so attached to physical reality that we cease to think, that we cease to speak, that we're just so attached to the day-to-day mundane that we aren't able to see what's really meaningful in our lives. So that's what I've got for you. I'm just going to check back in with our chat here. And Ani says the I Ching is spot on. The proverbial side chick, low profile and minding manners because you recognize your place for now. I mean, sometimes that's just the situation we find ourselves in, right? It doesn't mean that that's going to be like that forever. And it doesn't mean that we have to subordinate to every single situation for the rest of our lives. It just means that, and I'm sure many of you have experienced this, is like, if you just try to assert yourself, you just make the situation worse. And that might be part of the place that we're in now, is we just have to be patient. We're not ready. We're not to the point of launching the new enterprise yet. We're at the point where we have to be patient. Javier says, I want a mini goat. I'm short. Gotta be mini. All right. Freshtopia. Hey, what's up, Tanya? Freshtopia. You're in the Freshtopia account. This is Tanya Andrews of Freshtopia and Third Coast Mojo. Freshtopia, if you guys aren't familiar, was Tanya's cooking show that she did in the early aughts that won her a YouTube award when those were a thing. And check it out. If you want to look at Freshtopia, there's some pretty cool like cooking advice on there when Tanya was sharing the world of raw vegan food before a transition into a different lifestyle. But Tanya says, as a certified freakus myself, when it comes to the nature of time travel, and how the perception of causation in events functions, I have thoughts. We need to hear more of your thoughts, Tanya. Tanya is obsessed with time travel. Okay, like time travel movies, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Groundhog Day, like anything where there's time loops. Not Poker Face, Russian Doll. You know, all of these things. Like, if there's time travel or time loops involved in it, Tanya is there. And I love Back to the Future, which is another one like that. So it's part of where our lives overlapped. Time travel and like nostalgia. Good stuff. Anyone ever do that goat yoga? Javier says, I don't know. There you go. Vindicated, Honey says. Tanya says, need tiny goat yoga therapy for my birthday. Yeah, maybe we'll take you to the petting zoo, Tanya, and get you back in that goat energy. Javier says, it reminds me of the movie Ponyo. Oh, beautiful. Yes. I used to torture my daughter with Ponyo. She loved watching Ponyo, and she loved singing the song. And for whatever reason, I got it in my brain that the Ponyo theme goes like this: Ponyo, Ponyo, she's a stupid little fish. And like, he used to just torture my little Capricorn, very, very literal 5-year-old child. Was like, no, that's not how it goes. I'd just be laughing it was my mischievous Gemini Venus at work. That's a good memory. Love Studio Ghibli. Love it. Moon says, me too. Just so amazing. And you know what Studio Ghibli is really great for, Love It Moon, is space. You know, long form. Just sitting with something for a while. Just being out almost in nature. It seems like Japanese culture appreciates this. Just being in space and embracing the space between things. And Studio Ghibli is great for that. Myro says, the allow and let go, the hardship in that makes me think of the square of Mars. Yes, exactly. Right. You got it. I see what you mean about the March date with Jupiter moving into the 4th. Long-term living situation, not short-term. That tracks. There you go. Astrology. I mean, the stars don't lie, right? Planets don't lie. We just have to be patient enough to work with them. Javier says, this happened to me. Put in a place I had no control and everything worked out. Well, there you go. The universe has a plan. Tanya says, tell everyone it's National How to Be a Time Traveler Day on 12/8. There you go. Hey, everybody. It's National Pretend to Be a Time Traveler Day on the 8th of December. Isn't that exciting? I think it is. Hey, everybody. It's National Pretend to be a Time Traveler Day on December 8th. Isn't that exciting? I think it is. Hey, everybody. It's National Pretend to be a Time Traveler Day on December the 8th. Isn't that exciting? I think it is. Oh, wait a second. Were we just in a time loop? That's crazy. Holy shit. My mind is just blown right now. I think we entered into a time loop. Were you guys in a time loop for a minute there? Oh, amazing. All right. I use that North Node in Pisces. Faith. Yes, Javier. Correction. March is in Jupiter. It goes direct. Got it. Agreed. There we go. Beautiful message. Yep. Just take it. There we go. Maro says, I recommend song Ocean of Noise by Arcade Fire. That's a good one. Margaret says, I think the resonance of the sea goat are in alignment with the I Ching. The notable that both Sag and the sea goat are chimera. Yes, good, good. Tanya says, sorry about the old account name Mercury Shadow Blast from the past. There you go. We need more thoughts, definitely. We should celebrate the Capricorn season by doing a rap session on a time travel or a multiverse movie or something. Yes. Tanya and I are going to have plenty of time together to come up with new ideas. So, yeah, we'll see if we're sick of each other by then, but I don't think we can be. She and I make a great team, so there could be some really good team ups coming from Tanya and I and Third Coast Mojo in the near future. And I will say this, Tanya is an excellent teacher and has a lot of really great thoughts about her interests as well. And I think that there might be a lot more of that coming from her as well. So I'm excited for it. And I hope that we'll just be able to move into the future with grace. Groundhog Day, group viewing. Yes, Alyssa in the Modern Den. Groundhog Day is an awesome movie. Love Bill Murray. I love, oh geez, what's the actress's name? I know what her daughter's name is at this point, but beautiful, beautiful lady. What you'll have to put it in the chat if I can't remember. What is the actress name in Groundhog Day? Yes. Javier says, holy fuck, I burst out laughing at the Ponyo song. Yeah, it was very mischievous, but drove my little Capricorn daughter crazy. All right. Very natural. Great job. There you go. The National Pretended to be a Time Traveler Day should be a short clip, please. Well, thank you, friends. And thank you for going down the annuals of time with me and the time loops of our dreams. Appreciate all of you. All right. I think that's going to do it for me today. Thanks for hanging out. Andy McDowell. That's right. Thank you, Tanya. That was going to bother me. I like her. And who's the other? Who's Mary Sternberger is the other one who I think has kind of got a similar vibe. That's also very beautiful and just seems like a nice person. Appreciate you. Thank you, KWOW. And thank you, everyone who contributed in the chat today. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you so much for all the comments and your insights. Thank you for sharing your stories and your charts and your questions. I'm so incredibly honored to be able to continue to do this work for you. And I hope that we'll continue to grow together as a channel, as businesses, etc., as human beings and in our wisdom. So remember, be patient. Try not to hold on to the old forms. Try not to turn back that clock. There's going to be a beautiful unfolding that comes with the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries that's coming, I hope. We might have to take some risks. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but we'll have each other to support one another through the changes. And be kind to yourself, right? When you're going through changes, when you're losing some things in your life, it's easy to beat yourself up about it. As someone who's been around a lot of Capricorn types, Precus types, they can really beat themselves up. Don't do that. Be nice to yourself. You be kind to yourself. You be patient with yourself. It's going to be so much easier for you to be kind and patient with those around you. So be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Check out the webinars, right? Check out the sales, KWOW says. Last day for the webinar sale. Last week or so to get your Third Coast Mojo's things to be able to send out as gifts for other people. Appreciate all of you. KWOW says, I'm still working through all of them because there's so much info. I'm just trying to leave a legacy. I want to put more information in there than you can possibly handle so you can return to those things as a resource time and time again. So thank you, KWOW, for helping out with that. Appreciate you. So take care, friends, and go watch a time loop movie, and we'll see you the next time. Peace.